Welcome to Voice of Moses, where stories of faith, courage, and God's power come alive. Today, we journey with a man who stood in the shadow of Moses, yet rose to lead a nation, a servant, a warrior, a man of faith. This is the story of Joshua, the one who led Israel into the promised land. The great leader Moses had died. His voice was silent. His feet no longer walked with the people. For 40 years, Moses had guided Israel through the desert, through miracles, through rebellion, through pain and promise. And now, that mantle had fallen on Joshua, the son of Nun. Joshua was not new to this journey. He had stood by Moses' side on Mount Sinai. He had guarded the tent of meeting, where God's presence would descend like a cloud. He was one of the 12 spies, but unlike the others, he had believed. When others feared giants, Joshua saw victory. And now, God had chosen him to lead. One quiet morning, with the wilderness behind and the land of promise ahead, God spoke, "Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, arise, cross this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land I am giving them." The voice of God was strong, but it carried a father's tenderness. "As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. Be strong, be courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for I, the Lord your God, will be with you wherever you go." Joshua stood still, heart pounding, soul trembling. He had seen what leading a nation could cost, but he also knew one thing: when God is with you, the battle is already won. He gathered the leaders and said, "Prepare yourselves. In 3 days, we will cross the Jordan River. The Lord is giving us the land." Before they crossed, Joshua sent 2 trusted men to scout out Jericho, the great city that stood as the gate to Canaan. Inside the city, the spies were hidden by a woman named Rahab. She was not from Israel, and her past was dark, but her heart had found light. "We have heard what your God did to the Egyptians," she said. "We know the Lord has given you this land. Please, spare my family." The spies promised, and because of her faith, Rahab would become part of God's people, and her name would be remembered for generations. Now, the time had come. Over 1 million Israelites stood at the edge of the Jordan River. The waters were high, fast, dangerous, overflowing. The people murmured, some afraid, some unsure. But Joshua stood tall. He gave this command: "When the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant step into the water, the river will stop flowing." The Ark, a symbol of God's presence, was lifted upon the priest's shoulders. Step by step, they moved forward. As the first foot touched the water, it stopped. The river piled up in the distance. The ground beneath them turned dry. A miracle, like the Red Sea, right before their eyes. The people crossed, not running, but reverently, in awe of what they saw. And in the middle of the riverbed, Joshua had 12 stones placed, one for each tribe, so that your children will ask, "What do these stones mean?" And you will say, "This is where God parted the Jordan for us." On the other side stood their first test, the city of Jericho. Its walls were thick, its gates locked, its warriors ready. To human eyes, it was impossible. But God said, "March around the city once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, march 7 times. Then blow the trumpets and shout. No swords drawn, no siege engines, just obedience." So they marched, once, in silence, day after day, just the sound of sandals on dirt and the ark being carried. Inside the city, Jericho's people watched, confused, mocking, nervous. They laughed, but their hearts began to fear. Then came the 7th day. They marched once, then twice, then 3 times. By the 7th time, a silence filled the air. Joshua lifted his hand, and the trumpets blew. A mighty shout rose from the people, a roar of faith and fire. The walls shook, they cracked, crumbled, and fell flat. Jericho was conquered, not by might, but by faith. The land was not yet won. City after city stood in their path. Enemies united. Kings joined forces against Joshua, but Joshua knew the battle belonged to the Lord. In one fierce battle, as the sun began to set and the enemy tried to escape into the darkness, Joshua raised his voice to heaven. "Sun, stand still over Gibeon. Moon, over the valley of Aijalon." And the sun stood still. For a full day, time was held in God's hand. Never before and never since has God listened to a man like that. It was as if the heavens paused just for him. With God's help, Joshua and the Israelites took the land. Tribe by tribe, the land was divided. Vineyards they did not plant. Homes they did not build. All were given by the hand of God. But Joshua's greatest victory was not on a battlefield. It was in the hearts of the people. As his life neared its end, the old warrior gathered all of Israel. He had seen walls fall. He had seen rivers part. He had watched fire fall from heaven. But now, his voice was soft. His words were final. Fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away the idols your ancestors worshipped and serve the Lord. He looked into the eyes of every tribe, every family, every child. Choose this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And the people cried out, "We will serve the Lord our God and obey him." Joshua was buried in the land of promise, not just as a warrior, but as a servant of the Lord. His story teaches us that God does not need the strongest, just the most faithful, that even walls that seem unbreakable fall before obedience, that when you trust God, even the sun will wait for your victory. and that true courage is standing firm when others turn away. God's words to Joshua still speak to us today. Be strong, be courageous, do not be afraid, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Thank you for joining us on Voice of Moses. If this journey inspired your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Come with us again as we bring the greatest stories of the Bible to life, filled with purpose, power, and the presence of God. Until next time, keep the faith, be strong, and remember, God is with you always.